welcome you into, and thank you so much for joining us here on America's Retirement Headquarters, home of the Retirement Guys Formula and America's Medicare Associates with Nolan Baker and Scott Kirshner. Myself, my name is Chris Vaughn. Really do appreciate you taking time to spend with us today. Here's how you reach out, 419-794-3030. Once again, that's 419-794-3030, online at americasretirementheadquarters.com. Today's show is going to be a little different, kind of a touchy subject. We're going to talk about, we spend so much time talking about getting people to retirement and through retirement, but what happens beyond that? The conversation this week is stories that might hit home for some of you listening today, but we're going to hear how to avoid these undue heartaches with a little bit of proper estate planning. But first, let me check in with Scott Kirshner and a special guest, Mr. Sam Ansara, with us today. Gentlemen, glad to be with you. How are you today?
Well, we're doing very, very well. We're in Northwest Ohio in the Toledo area, as everybody knows, in Maumee here. And the good thing is my daughter's out in Kent State, and she got about 16 to 20 inches of snow over the past few days. And, she was sending some pictures, and being the silly senior in college that she is, they were doing snow angels and all that kind of fun stuff. But we're doing very, very well. You led into dealing with some heartache. And first, Sam, I'd like to thank you very much for joining me today. And I know what we're going to talk about is kind of difficult things, but I think it's important that we let people know exactly what we've experienced, and maybe we can help them avoid some of this stuff.
Thanks, Scott.
Absolutely. So let's dive right in here, because we all have that one thing we keep putting off, even though we know we really need to take care of it. And when it comes to financial planning, which is what we talk about on the show week in, week out, many of us have been putting off the same thing, and that is getting an estate plan. Robert Brokamp is a personal finance expert with The Motley Fool. This is what he has to say.
If you don't have an estate plan, please just get it done. It's among the most neglected aspects of financial planning. I can't tell you how many times I talked to someone and they said, yeah, I need to take care of that. I just haven't gotten around to it. And many of these people are among the most successful folks that I know. There's just something about estate planning that people want to avoid. And I get it. I've put off updating of our current plan longer than I should have, but you just got to get it done.
And I know the pandemic has been a pretty reflective period for a lot of people, and it's been a reminder of the importance of good estate planning. But there are a lot of people listening right now, I'd wager, who are probably still putting it off. So, guys, what are your words for them?
Well, that's a very good point. And I want to tell you this. A lot of people, for some reason, don't like to think about or even talk about people dying, especially loved ones. I've been in this business for 27 years, and, with life insurance, there's a couple of different types of people that purchase life insurance. And it's the people that understand and recognize the fact that they have a need and they want to protect their family. And I know, Sam, that you did that. You put things in place and got life insurance and things like that put in place. But then you deal with the people, and I've dealt with a lot of these people, where people buy on emotion. And you may even have family members or, friends that, with the passing of your wife, prematurely, and understand, like, oh my gosh, that can really happen to us. I have a story where I wrote a life insurance policy for someone, and they buy on emotion. They had an emotional tie. I had a client, and his brother was a tree trimmer for the city of Toledo, and he actually fell out of a tree and unfortunately was killed. He was a young guy. He had 7 children. And, the brother comes into my office and he says, I want to buy $1 million of life insurance. Where do I sign? And I'm like, whoa, back up. Hang on. Tell me what's going on. I just can't do it like that. And he told me the story. And that's a perfect example of buying an emotion. He said, my brother passed away. He didn't have life insurance. He had 7 children. I don't want to leave my family in that situation. So I run into that a lot, and people are just really reluctant, to properly prepare. So one of the things that I want to start the show with, and I want to tell a little bit of my story. So what happened to me, and then Sam, we'll throw it to you, and you can talk about yours. So my dad, 85 years old, passed away this past Christmas, and his favorite holiday was Christmas. He actually was Santa Claus. My nephew stood up at the funeral and said, Grandpa didn't play Santa Claus, he was Santa Claus. And Sam, you had the opportunity to meet him, with our relationship with softball our daughters played. You know, you knew my dad.
Yeah, great guy. Always rooting for Breezy.
Yeah.
Always rooting for A-Dub or Wizards or whatever it was, and just a great guy, and I'm sure you're hurting with his loss.
Oh, absolutely. You know, and you know, for Christmas time, a lot of people said, "Oh my, you know, it's Christmas time," you know, and you know, you're always going to remember that, and your dad dying. And I'm always going to have a smile on my face because he loved Christmas. He played Santa Claus for a lot of you know, families that had young kids that you know, he would go to their house. You know, so he passed away Christmas Day. My mom's 84, and we had the service on a Wednesday. New Year's Eve, we ended up taking mom to the hospital. She had a heart attack, so that was kind of traumatic. She's doing very well now and getting back on her feet. But part of the things that I've had to deal with is the life insurance. We made the arrangements at the funeral home, and you know, you're dealing with a lot of stress, and you know, it's a very traumatic time when you lose someone like that. And my mom, at 84 years old, she just doesn't understand a lot of the things that have to take place right now. And properly putting, you know, the wishes in place prior to that 11th hour is very, very important. You know, and that's why we've come out with the Ultimate Estate Planning Guide. And the Ultimate Estate Planning Guide gives you, it's a checklist, and it gives you all of the information you need to properly prepare. You know, Sam, I saw a Facebook post that you had where you said that you and Trish thought you had everything prepared and put together, and little did you know there was a lot that you didn't have prepared and put together. And the Ultimate Estate Planning Guide can kind of help with that process, you know. And in a little bit we'll go through some of the key items on that Ultimate Estate Planning Guide. But you know, the fortunate thing for me, my situation is a little bit different than yours. You know, I had 11 days to, you know, Dad was in the hospice, had 11 days to talk with him, and he knew what was happening. He knew the end was near, and we talked about what his wishes were. And that was kind of beneficial because we didn't go into it blind. We had a little bit of an idea on what Dad was looking for and what his wishes were. But for you, your situation was a little different. Why don't you fill us in on what you had to experience?
Well, Trisha had a stroke on probably about December 7th, and she did not make it. She passed away on December 9th. And so we never were able to talk about that stuff during the process there. But she and I were very diligent about trying to do the best things that we thought we could over our life together, 30 plus years. So we thought we had a lot of things going, and you know, like I said in that Facebook post, Scott, the big thing is you learn quickly the intricacies of all these different things. And you know, just like your guide, I looked at your guide the other day when you sent it to me, and some of those things, just having all the different account numbers and stuff like that at the ready would have been monumentally helpful to me going through this kind of process. Just little things like that.
Sure. Yeah, so a little bit about the Ultimate Estate Planning Guide. What we put together was we put together this guide to help with all of the things that we think. Now, is it perfect? We like to think that it is, but you know, there are some things that maybe pop up that we're not prepared for. But you know, you list your power of attorney. One of the things that I'm the power of attorney for my dad at the time, and as most people may know, upon death, the power of attorney ceases. But I am still power of attorney with my mom, and that's proving to be helpful, but somewhat frustrating, which I'll get into in a little bit here. But you know, with this form, we have the medical power of attorney, we have the general power of attorney, we have the durable power of attorney. You know, you want to put on here if you have a will or not. You want to make sure that the person that you're looking after, do they have a DNR? Do not resuscitate. We've had to go through some of those things, and Dad did not have one, and he ended up sign one of them at the emergency room prior to to putting him in hospice. But you mentioned about account numbers and security codes and things like that. There's a lot of things that a lot of people don't know about or don't take care of. For example, if Trish happened to take care of all of the bills, and I don't say that meaning that she did. If she did, though, you may not know the passwords for the cell phone account.
Oh, there's literally hundreds of different issues that you encounter dealing with your family members' situation. A lot of it is through her work.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, dealing with recovering 401ks or her life
Sure.
insurance or letting, there's a whole process of that. Like, even I had to move my daughter from her health insurance to my health insurance. So there was a whole process of proving that she died to
Right.
to her company, to ending all this stuff. I mean, it was daunting for sure.
Yeah, and this never happens, at a good time. It always happens when you're still in the grieving process.
Exactly.
We were talking before we came on the air and talked a little bit about what happens a day or two after, the passing. And, you shared your experience with the funeral home and all of the numbers and everything. Why don't you share a little bit on that again?
Well, I just, like we were saying, Scott, I think that people need to be prepared just for what the impact of it is. Even if you, in my instance, similar to your father's, my wife was cremated, but even with a cremation, there's a significant expense from the funeral home. There's expenses from the church. There's
Mm-hmm.
expenses from, there's just multitudes of different things that you come up with. And for whatever reason, a lot of that you need to be prepared to pay for relatively, that day. So we were able to handle that, luckily for our family, but I can see that, it can be quite monumental. I mean, in our instance, it's pushing, $20 some thousand dollars
Sure.
just to do a basic cremation and later on.
Yeah, so that's exactly what we did. And to be honest with you, I really didn't know. I've been in this business 27 years. I sell life insurance. I talk to people. Anytime I go to a funeral, I always pull the funeral director aside. I know that may sound weird, but I sell this. I like to educate myself, and I pull the funeral director aside and I said, "Hey, what's all this costing for this particular person?" And they usually tell me. And that way, when I talk to someone about final expense, I can have a pretty educated idea on how much they could be prepared for when I'm trying to sell life insurance. But for my dad's situation, what we did was we had we rented a casket, and I know you did for Trish as well. We had a one-day showing, and then my dad was also cremated, and Mom and Dad have a plot already purchased, both of them. So, and it's in a group where other family members are. And I told Mom, I said, what are we going to do with Dad's ashes? And my mom didn't want them at all. She thinks that's just kind of gross, and she really didn't want anything to do with that. So we decided that what we're going to do is we're actually going to use Dad's plot and actually bury the ashes in the springtime when the weather's a little bit better, and then when Mom passes away, hopefully not for a long time. But you never know. Then we'll use her plot and take care of things that way. But I didn't really understand how all of that works in the funeral home. They were actually pretty good and informative, but they tell you all about that. You can rent a casket. Here's the casket we have that you rent. All of the linen and inside cushions and pillows are all new for every person, and it was very informative for us. I didn't really realize that. One of the things that we were able to do is we did what's called an assignment of life insurance.
Yeah.
So we actually took the amount of money that was necessary and sent to the life insurance company an assignment form. So a portion of the proceeds from the life insurance will be sent directly to the funeral home. We won't even see that. It'll go directly to the funeral home, and then the balance of that will go to Mom. So that was something that was,
Did they bring that up to you?
They did, actually. They
Okay.
asked if we would like to do an assignment, which for us worked out well. So now something else that a lot of people may or may not know, my dad actually contracted COVID. And I wasn't really sure on this. I did do some research on this. So there's a website, the Fema website is a site that you can actually go out to. If the reason of the passing is COVID related or as a result of COVID. So for example, Dad tested negative 8 days prior to his passing, but he went in with COVID pneumonia. So on the death certificate, it actually states COVID-19 virus. We're able to actually log into the FEMA website, and we can actually file a claim. They're paying up to $9,000 per individual claimant towards funeral expenses.
No.
Yeah, and a lot of people they just don't know that.
Yeah.
But that was something that I found to be very beneficial for Mom. It's going to be very, very helpful for her. So that's a really good thing that moving forward. But if we go back to the Ultimate Estate Planning Guide, the passwords and the login information, those are things a lot of people don't know. I mean, you've got, for example, your home auto insurance. You want to get a hold of your insurance agent and remove them as a driver, remove her as a named insured on the policy. The life insurance, you want to make sure that you list who all of the beneficiaries are and list all of the policies. There may be policies that you didn't even know she had. I'm dealing with my mom. Dad retired from Chrysler, so he had an annuity through Chrysler. And just the other day, we received the paperwork. 72 pages. Now, Mom's 84. she doesn't know this stuff. I've been in the business a long time, and I'm looking through these, and I'm like, I don't have any idea what they're talking about. So you have all kinds of things like that. Like you said, dealing with the health insurance through Tricia's work. Is there any advice that you might throw out to anybody out there, something that might help them out?
Well, I would have a conversation with your spouse about these things. Even set some time aside and have a serious conversation. Talk to a guy like yourself that can bring up these key little points of that are difficult to discuss, but need to be discussed. And like I said, with us, my wife was not exactly computer savvy. So, and I'm not a genius with it either, but I'm, I guess, less dangerous than her. And so, the one thing that I did is when she had to sign up for benefits, like on her work, like she and I did that together. So I kind of knew what she had going on and what was available. And like we said about Tricia, she was a diabetic, so she was unable to get life insurance outside of her work group plan. So I would encourage people again to talk to someone like you, Scott, about if there's options for people to save, because not only do we Tricia was a 30-year practicing dietitian, and she had a decent income that we won't really have anymore in our family. And so there's issues with that. There's issues with a lot of different things. So it really is a daunting task just to plan it. But I'm relatively happy with myself about what we did do, but it would have been nice to know some of the smaller details of what just slaps you upside the head right out of the blue.
You brought up a good point, Sam. When you have two people working and one of those incomes is gone, whether it's I don't care how it's gone, that can be a big hit.
Gigantic.
Because the bills are still there.
Yeah,
the
bills don't
mortgage
get
is there.
cut in half or decrease equally in the same capacity. No.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the bill. Your insurances are still there. Your mortgage is still there. your utilities, all of that is still there, but now your income is changed drastically. And if you're not prepared for that, if you haven't had that discussion, you need to. And make sure that you have an advisor that actually can help you with this process. One of the things I had a client that called in the other day and offered condolences and that, and we were talking about a few things, and he said, yeah, I'm kind of dealing with a lot of these headaches myself because he's an executor for his brother. And that made me think about something. I'm an executor of a couple of friends, and dealing what I'm dealing with and dealing with what you're dealing with, Sam, you want to be there to help your family and friends out. But being an executor can really, really be a difficult task to undertake. I mean, what would you say to someone if they, come to you now, knowing what you know, and said, "Hey, Sam, I would like for you to be an executor of my estate. We don't have anybody else that we trust." I mean, I would ask a lot of questions. What do you have everything put in place?
I think in that point they might that your friend or family member might respect your opinion and in your just wherewithal to deal with those things, but you could be walking into a nightmare
Absolutely.
Amongst other family members related to that. It's pretty uncommon in our family. We really didn't have any conflicts with anyone or anything like that, but I do understand that can be quite difficult between brothers and sisters and other family members that may have a claim to something that they want or whatever. So being an executor of someone's estate is a lot of responsibility and something to not take lightly.
Yeah, and there's no question. When money's involved, the gloves come off, so to speak, and it can be very ugly. I've dealt with that in a family in the past. You just have to. You have to be willing to accept that. You want to do the right thing. You want to help them out. And they come to you for a reason. They came to you because they feel and they trust. They feel that you know what you're doing and you have a reasonable head about you, and they trust you. But, boy, that's a huge responsibility. And I'm not saying don't approach and don't take on that responsibility because everybody needs that. I think, with me doing health insurance and doing everything that I've done in the past with health insurance, and working with my mom, I was on the phone the other day for a couple of hours trying to change some accounts, and it was it was pretty frustrating dealing with one particular account. So, my dad had a charge card, and my mom was a card holder, but she was not the primary card holder. So I called the company up, and they canceled the card immediately. Well, Mom didn't have any credit card for emergencies because it was closed at that time. I mean, it's done. So we were going through some of her, her purse and some of her belongings, and we found a credit card in there, and it expired in 2021. And I asked Mom, I said, "What is this?" She says, "I don't have any idea what that is. I don't even think I ever used it." So I get on the phone and I call the company. And it's a MasterCard. And I had on speakerphone with my mom, and the guy that I dealt with, oh my gosh, was that frustrating for me. The guy that I dealt with talked to my mom, and she said, "I give authorization to my son," and we're on the speakerphone. He would not talk to me at all, even though we were both standing there on speakerphone side by side. She explained that I was power of attorney, but it didn't matter. So these are just a few of the things that can really come up, and if you're not properly prepared for all of the things, in that traumatic time when someone passes, it's tough. And like I said, it never happens at a good time. It's just a frustrating thing. I'm very, very sorry for your loss. I knew Trish, and I remember when our daughters were playing softball when they first started up there at the park in Waterville.
Yeah, Stipp Park.
Stipp Park, yeah, they were little. I think they were more interested in the dandelions that were growing.
Yeah, there were some dogs running in the background too. I think they were cared about.
Exactly. So I know it's important, to get a copy of the Ultimate Estate Planning Guide. We have copies of those. You can reach out to us at our America's Retirement Headquarters, or even me personally at Scott K at americasmedicareassociates.com. I'd be happy to send any information out to you to help in properly preparing for this in the future.
We've said it at the beginning of the show, and I think people out there listening, they understand it is a tricky subject. It's a taboo subject, having to talk about end of life, whether it is for you or for your loved ones, your spouse. And I'm trying to be as delicate about this as possible, but having that conversation ahead of time, going ahead and putting that plan in place, I'm willing to bet is considerably easier to have now than when it is thrust upon you, and you have to make those decisions on top of the emotional duress that you already have.
Yes, sir.
As a former Boy Scout, and if Nolan were here, he'd weigh in. Having scouts of his own and things like that. Be prepared. That's the motto, and it's one of those things. It is considerably easier to go ahead and have this conversation now. Again, still not going to be easy. We're not going to lie about that, but have that conversation now ahead of time to know that when that time comes, and this is not one of those if situations. This is a when that time comes.
Sure.
It is one less thing that your loved ones have to worry about, or that you have to worry about with the loss of a loved one of your own. Again, not easy. Not going to discount that fact, but it is well worth having ahead of time. 419-794-3030. That's how you speak with America's Retirement Headquarters. That's how you get a copy of the Ultimate Estate Planning Guide. Start checking those things off, and don't have those questions come up that you don't know the answers to, or that they don't know the answers to. Or again, you can reach out to Scott, Scott K at americasmedicareassociates.com. Want to thank you guys so much for joining us this week here on America's Retirement Headquarters. One more time, the phone number, 419-794-3030. Sam, we appreciate you coming on, sharing your story. Very sorry for your loss and you having to tell the story. And Scott, same with you. Appreciate you sharing your story about your father as well. And as we wrap up, guys, want to leave you with the final word.
Well, I want to thank all of the listeners. Hopefully you got some information today that will help you prepare for the future and of the untimely passing of a loved one. Sam, once again, my condolences.
Same to you.
Thank you very much. We've been friends for a long time. I really appreciate you taking the time and coming on the show with me. I think it was valuable, and I think a lot of people would get a lot out of it. And,
I hope so.
Yeah. Thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of your weekend. And thanks for listening and watching.